Bringing in Mariah Ross to join us to chat all things from Spartanburg. Mariah, good afternoon. How are you, ma'am?
I'm doing great today. A little bit of a busy day getting ready for Friday night football, but it's
Mm-hmm.
always fun to take a break and talk about Saturday nights with
Yep.
you guys.
Yep, no doubt. Mariah, we talk to you every single week, and we appreciate your time here
Mhm.
on the Southeast Sports Plus, as always. And it seemed like a couple weeks ago that this South Carolina team was a team that was riding high. They had plenty of momentum opening up the
Right.
SEC slate, and then they drop the first two games to Vanderbilt and to Missouri. Now they're gearing up for a Kentucky team who is less than stellar and has been for a minute. What is the mindset of this program as it currently stands?
That things have to be better. At this point, it is kind of the same thing we've been hearing over the last couple of weeks. The run game is really struggling. The O line is really struggling. And Sellers has been playing decent, but they obviously need to see a little bit more from him. But yeah, just basically, get out there and be the team that we know you guys are capable of being.
Last week or 2 weeks ago, it was easily, you could chalk it up to, hey, well, we didn't have Lenore Sellers. He was out with an injury. And then this past week, Sellers is in. He throws for over 300 yards. Sellers does not play a down of defense, and they gave up 1 million yards rushing. So if they can pinpoint to one thing, whether it's on the offensive side or defensive side, that has to be cleaned up immediately before this Kentucky game, what would you point to?
Well, I think it's interesting, right? Because the first 2 weeks we saw the defense and the special teams really kind of take over the games. The offense has been struggling a little bit all season, but defense has never really been a big issue until these last two games. They're definitely having struggles just making tackles, wrapping up. So that's been a big emphasis in practice this week. But I would say that the offensive issues are a lot more glaring and a lot more obvious. It's clear that they are having a hard time running the ball. It is clear that the O line is struggling. And I mean, you can't take as many sacks as Lenora Sellers took last week against Missouri. So I would say the offensive issues are probably what they're focusing on the most right now and just trying to get that together as much as possible.
To what do they quote blame? I guess the run game problems on there, Mariah. Is it something with the offensive line? Is it a lack of talent in the backfield? Is it a big combination of both? What do you feel as though the message has been from the coaching staff?
Well, it's definitely not a lack of talent. They were saying all preseason or all off season that it's a really deep room and they have a lot of guys who have veteran experience and then they
Mm.
have young guys. So I don't think that anyone is saying it's a talent issue. I would say it's more of an O line problem and just trying to get things figured out there. That is an experienced group, but also a very young group. They had a true freshman out there this past Saturday that I was talking to a year ago at one of our local high schools. And so it's a really young group and they're still trying to figure out how to gel together to make things work. And as we saw against Missouri, just a lot of guys coming through that line, a lot of penalties
Yeah,
that are hurting them as well. And, it's hard to run the ball when you have second and long, third and long. So that's definitely been an issue as well with all of the penalties.
no question.
What's been the talking point from the leadership of this team? Because this was a team, as we said, we're 2 weeks removed from them being in the top 10, and we were making
Mhm.
statements. I was making ridiculous statements saying if the season ended today, they'd be in the playoff. What are the leaders saying? Lenora Sellers and the guys in the defense that are trying to have this team regroup going into this week against Kentucky, because it's once again a game where if you look at the Vegas odds, that Kentucky is expected to lose this game, South Carolina is expected to
Right.
win. But I feel like if you're right now in a South Carolina uniform, you can't take anything for granted.
Right. And they've been talking about leadership a lot recently. Sellers is one of those guys, and they actually have a lot of guys who are those quiet leaders and just let their game and their practice and their work ethic speak for itself. I think Sellers is maybe trying to be a little bit more vocal as of late, but he's that kind of guy that just leads by example. On defense, they do have a couple older guys, Nick Barrett, DQ Smith, that are speaking up and just saying, hey, we know who we are. We know that we know how to make tackles. We've never been a team that struggled making tackles. So play the way that you know how to play and just stay focused. Don't let the fact that they're struggling a little bit kind of keep them down. Just play the game that you know how to play. That's kind of just been the message throughout.
Mariah, statistically speaking, South Carolina ranks last in every offensive category but one. And the one that they don't would be yards passing per game, and the team that does is Kentucky. Is that
Mhm.
a point of emphasis maybe by this South Carolina coaching staff right now on maybe where they can target the Wildcats and maybe have a leg up going into this game as far as the offensive attack?
Yeah, well, as we've said, the run game has not been great, but Lenore Sellers has been passing the ball really well. He's coming off his best statistic performance against Missouri. And so that has been kind of a focus. Obviously, you can't run if you don't have a super strong offensive line, and they're going to
Sure.
continue working on that. But yes, Sellers is absolutely airing it out, and that's something that they want to keep doing and something that they want to attack Kentucky on.
You touched on the offensive line. Do you see any personnel shakeups going on there, or is it just keep the same starting five and let's just tweak the technique? What do you see there from a I guess a strategy standpoint going to Kentucky?
Yeah, well, there have been a lot of shakeups on that O-line. They've had injuries. They lost one of their right tackles. So yeah, there's been a lot of change in that line, which is part of the reason why it's been so hard to gel. So yeah, I mean, they're definitely going to try to shake things up and just figure out what works. They're always in constant competition in practice, just picking the best starting five. And so we'll probably continue to see some shakeups, but unfortunately, when you have injuries, it's hard to pull into that bag of depth that you have.
Switching gears a little bit, Mariah, look at the annual opponents, and then just today or yesterday, the full slates came out for next year. When you look at these annual opponents for South Carolina, you get Georgia, you get Florida, and you get Kentucky. How do you feel about that being the annual opponents, at least for the next 4 seasons for the Gamecocks? And then as we kind of extend things out, what you felt like in terms of their SEC slate for next season?
Yeah, well, Georgia's always a tough team to play. So that being one of your annual opponents for the next 4 years is going to, put some tough, be a little bit tough on the Gamecocks.
No doubt.
Florida, obviously this season not playing as well, but they are historically good. And Kentucky, maybe on the up and up. We don't really know what's going on with them. So that's probably one of the easier matchups. And I hate to say it, and I don't mean it offensively, obviously.
During Kentucky week.
Yeah, right. I know, just don't jinx it. Everyone in the SEC is obviously tough to play, so it's going to be a difficult outlook for everybody. But yeah, seeing Georgia on that one, I was like, ooh,
yeah.
I don't know about that.
I pulled up the that's the annual opponents. As for who else they get, so to speak, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Texas A&M, at Alabama, at Arkansas, at Oklahoma. I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, there's really no easy gimme week in the SEC at all. But man, there are some tough games in there. I mean, Texas, Texas A&M, I should say, at Alabama, at Oklahoma. State's hard to play at. I mean, dang, that's a kind of a hard deal there.
It's a lot. And, last season, South Carolina made themselves one of those teams that people feared. And so they absolutely have to get back to that if they want those games not to just be wash-ups. They can't continue to play the way that they've been playing as of late.
Yeah, let's take a listen to Shane Beamer. I know that he was asked about the 9-game schedule. Let's listen to what Coach had to say.
So it's out. All right, Commissioner Sankey, Steve told me I can comment on it. If I get fined, fine him. About 3 years ago, when there was the talk of potentially having 3 permanent opponents that you were going to play each year, they told us who that would be. That was 2 or 3 years ago, and 2 or 3 years ago it was Florida, Kentucky, and Georgia. So that aspect of it didn't change. I didn't have a conversation about it when we had league meetings in Destin back in May. We didn't discuss that. When we had head coach meetings with the ADs in New Orleans back in February, we didn't discuss who they were. Jeremiah and our administration maybe did. I know they had an athletic directors meeting 1 or 2 weeks ago in person. That was maybe something they discussed, but nobody asked me for my opinion. They didn't ask me my opinion on 8 games or 9 games either. So I just coach the team, or try to, and whoever they tell us to, whenever they tell us to play them, we'll be there.
Mariah, I found it really interesting. We talked about Missouri and South Carolina, and the SEC almost looking to wedge a rivalry in there that never really came about. And then what I found interesting is 2026, Missouri's nowhere to be found. So is the Mayor's Cup officially gone?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's officially gone, but I guess they are trying to kill that rivalry before it really gets going, right?
Good stuff. Mariah, your take on, it seems as though Shane Beamer, if that was this week, he seems like he's in relatively decent spirits given where the team is at currently with 2 straight losses.
Yeah, that was kind of my impression this week too. Last week he was a little bit more glum, not as smiley and out there as he usually is, but he walked into that press conference all smiles yesterday. They did have a bunch of kids there, and so I think he was maybe just trying to keep it light and happy for all of them. But yeah, it does give you the impression that maybe things are going better in practice. One of the things he actually mentioned about practice was with the penalties, what do you do to kind of remedy those issues? And he kind of brought up the definition of insanity. He said, we obviously can't be doing the same thing that we're doing. It's not working. So he alluded to some tweaks in practice and said he'll let us know if it works next week. So I'm looking forward to hopefully it working and then seeing what those tweaks that they made were. But yeah, he definitely came in a little bit lighter. So it gives you the impression that maybe things are going better in practice, but can't know for sure until Saturday.